the brand perception we create, the customers that are initially acquired that go on to become lifelong customers. So that is absolutely something I think of. Like, we are stewards of our clients' brands when we are working for them, and we have a sort of duty to leave that in a better place once we finish working with them than when we started working with them.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Build Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and business owners on their journey from millions to billions. We believe that the key to scaling and compounding your wealth and life starts every single day with a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Each and every guest on the show is an entrepreneur, millionaire, or billionaire, and they share their expertise with us, wisdom, again, so we can scale and compound our wealth and life, so we can give more, all of it away. My name is Brett Swartz. I'm excited about our next guest. He is a juggernaut when it comes to all things paid advertising. In fact, Heath Media, the company that he is the founder of, is the most sought after digital advertising agency in the UK. And don't worry, he's also serving all of us US citizens as well. He's got tons of cool wisdom he's going to share with us today. And over the last 15 years, he's built one of the biggest communities in the advertising space with over 700,000 people across YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Mr. Ben Heath. Ben, how we doing?
I'm all good, and thank you very much for that intro. I hope I live up to it.
Oh, for sure. I believe you will. In the meantime, or to get us started, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, so backgrounds would be, I first started marketing things as a necessity, having started various sort of side hustles. This is before side hustles were popular. Trying to sell various products and things like that on eBay, Amazon, and realized no one's going to buy these things unless I actually know how to market them. So sort of bought a few online courses. This is like 2009. Learned how to do a bit of stuff. And my mum, who had an interior design business at the time, said, if you know how to get leads, can you give me a hand? My business really needs leads. So I ran some campaigns for her. They worked, did that for a little while, and then realized I had a skill that I could sell to other businesses, and then I started my marketing agency. So that's more than 10 years ago now, and then sort of bumbled along for many years, like a lot of people do, struggling, trying to get enough clients to make it full-time initially. And then things sort of really started to click around 2018. I started to become a name in the space, making a lot of content on Facebook and Instagram advertising, and got a lot of clients from that, able to build a more successful agency, and then, as these things often do, it's like a compounding effect from then on, right? You build your personal brand, gets you to clients, great clients, you can talk about them, helps with the content, builds, you make a bigger name for yourself, and round it goes. So
I love momentum, right? And momentum
exactly.
is more powerful than all of our resources, leadership, and strategy combined. And once you can build it, it absolutely explodes things. So tell us, what's the number one secret to building momentum within advertising?
There's normally, I'm quite a big believer in taking big swings, because there's lots of advertisers that focus on the small little incremental improvements, and they're great. Like, I have people like that work for me, and as part of a team, they're fantastic. But you always need someone there to be like, okay, are there things that we can do that can double the return on investment we're getting with our ads, which will then allow us to 5x or 10x ad spend? So often that's going to come down to thinking a little bit outside the box, being very creative with your ad creative, and coming up with something a little bit different. We typically see the companies that just absolutely fly when it comes to paid ads, they normally have a breakthrough moment. So they normally have an ad that just absolutely crushes, and we're like, oh, okay, we can really scale this aggressively, we can acquire a lot of customers, we can establish more presence within the market. And then after that, we can iterate on that, create ads that are similar. And
what's the number one way to creating a breakthrough? And what's the number one secret to creating a breakthrough moment? And give us an example of one.
So I think the most important thing is don't be boring. That would be where so many businesses, when they're not as experienced in online advertising, they want to play it safe. They want to do what they've done elsewhere. Often it's business owners themselves getting involved. They're not the type of people to really like go for it and be out there and look to have things take off. And then I think the best thing to do, once you've got that in your mind, like, right, we've got to go for it here. Boring, there's just no point in playing that game. I would recommend, well, firstly, whatever platform you're looking to advertise on, keep an eye on what grabs your attention. So that's like top tip is anything that grabs your attention, think, oh, okay, that really got me. Can I replicate like something like that in my industry? Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes it's no. And then on top of that, you can use something. So for meta ads, for example, you can use a meta ad library. Free tool, you can go in, you can see the ads that anyone's running. So if I was new within a niche, I'd be looking at what are my competitors doing? Who's doing really cool stuff? Can I model from what they're doing? Have a look at similar industries. You might be able to bring something that they do and sort of bring that down to your industry and give yourself a competitive advantage. So I'm a big fan of modeling, a big fan of trying to make it interesting. That gives you permission to then sell.
Okay, this is really good. We're speaking with Mr. Ben Heath, everybody. He has over 350,000 YouTube subscribers. And if you're in a business and you want to actually scale and build and learn about Facebook ads, Google ads, scale and YouTube channel, like really cool stuff, you need to subscribe to his YouTube channel. Or if you want to check out his services, go to heathmedia.co.uk, heathmedia.co.uk. Okay, so awesome stuff so far. Let's keep going. So, all right, give me an example though, right? Give me an example. What's the example of not being boring? What's an example of like, not playing it safe? Like, give me a case study.
So a classic would be Dollar Shave Club. Wait, have you seen their ads? Do you know? You familiar?
Oh
with
yeah,
them?
I love them. Yeah, they're funny.
So that would be a classic example of an industry that did advertising in a very safe way, shaving products. What was the blueprint was hire a celebrity, probably a sports star, get them to use your products with like dramatic lighting, and like that's it, right? That's what the ad copy looked like. And then Dollar Shave Club came along and just completely changed that. And anyone can go and check out those ads on YouTube because they're fantastic. And they're just really fun. They're very different. They're not taking themselves too seriously. It's fast paced, it's engaging, and there have been lots of businesses that have like modeled from that, and they still do well with those type of ads. But that was like one of the classics of someone who just did something completely out of left field and it worked really well.
Okay, I love that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That type. So fast paced, fun, different, not taking themselves too seriously. So let's make it practical, right? So our company's called Capital Gains Tax Solutions. We help people defer capital gains tax on big businesses, Bitcoin, real estate. So we're in the financial wealth arena, high net worth clients. We want to, grab their attention and be like, hey, there's a better way to exit, but not pay all these millions of tax, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're an investor and you want to be able to compound your wealth, compound your freedom with the flexibility of the capital. So what comes to mind when you do that? Because by the way, we're literally just hired our first like paid ad group to help us with this thing, and we're doing the email campaigns, and they had their first draft of the copy, and then I'm trying to think, is it boring? I'm trying to think, is it? I'm trying to think, is it? I'm just curious. So like, what comes to mind, Ben, without like. Is it different? Like Dollar Shave Club, I'm like, yeah, I'm a guy who can shave, I can get fun. Or is it maybe a false belief that because you're in the financial industry or the tax world or wealth, that you got to stay within a certain box?
Yeah, I'd say that's a false belief. So my business, for example, is B2B. We sell to business owners, and there are ads of me. Anyone can go and check them out. We've got them live right now, where I'm doing like a skit between like the intelligent Facebook advertiser and then the stupid Facebook advertiser, and I'm making all these mistakes, and I sort of dress differently, and we're playing fun. Yeah. I've got ads where the hook, the beginning of it, is me jumping on my kid's trampoline. You wouldn't expect that from a B2B ad, right? It's different, it's creative. I've got other ones where I'm pretending to have a phone call with a client and being really angry and like throwing my phone. So you can absolutely be more creative, and actually think in industries where that's rarer, you get a larger competitive advantage. So bringing it to your scenario, if you think about a video hook, you could have someone, you can over exaggerate in order to grab attention in the first place, make it a bit humorous. You could have someone that's now homeless, for example, that is in a really bad like way, and then you start talking about, well, once upon a time this was a really wealthy person. Had they only known how to exit properly, they'd be in a much better situation, right? And you can sort of make it obviously funny and that you're joking, and that would just be something off the top of mind that would be, I bet, not being done by your competitors. But
I love it. I think it's fun doing it too. And it's actually my normal. It's actually I guess my more authentic casual self, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of being more calm, and not even calm is not the word, but more dry humor, a little more sarcastic, a little more just like, not taking it so seriously. Like it's, I noticed like, okay, I'm in the flow state of that when I'm doing that. Like really, what's another word? I guess not caring as much, but I do care, right? But not caring as much about, I guess, how others are perceiving me, just being my normal self, right? But making it in a creative way. Is that a good way to think about our mindset to think about it, Ben?
Yeah, 100%. It's fun. It's more fun. It's less of a chore. It's being a bit childlike. It's, it's a good, I've got a 4-year-old, right? Some of the ads, I do that test. Does he giggle at the hook? No matter what we're advertising for, does he giggle at it? Because if he does, there's a good chance it'll also grab people's attention, whether they're on YouTube, Instagram, whatever. That's
great. I have a 6-year-old, and that's a good, because they're always going to be honest, right? They're not, if you're not funny, like, you leave me alone, you're not funny. But if they are, they start engaging. That's a great one. He's 6. His name is Strive, and like we have 4 girls and a boy, so he's our baby boy. And then we have the 4 girls. Highest is 14 years old. Thank you. Yeah, we did our part, but that's a good test, right? Just a good test. And how about like even involving maybe the kids or getting them in the skit or anything that could be like a part of it? Yeah,
100%. I mean, different people are comfortable with different things, right? But yeah, I've got ads. I've got like a mad Springer Spaniel, and we've got ads with like him involved, charging around, doing silly things. So absolutely. Anything out of the ordinary is likely to elevate your ad creative. I don't want to just give that side of it though, as in like, okay, just go super wacky and weird. It needs to tie into your offers. It needs to make sense. So like the example I gave for you is one that you can then tie into what it is that you offer. I just find that on balance, particularly with traditional businesses or serious businesses, let's say, they are way too far towards being safe and not being fun enough.
Yeah, I love it. It makes sense. Okay, so you've got to get a great hook. You be more down to earth, be creative, don't be boring. Okay, now is it like the hook, story, offer kind of thing? Now you got to tell the story, or you got to like what is the next part of the framework to making great Google, or Facebook ads?
Yeah, I do like that hook, story, offer framework. I don't think you have to be as rigid as that. We'll have ads that start with a great hook and then are basically filled with client testimonials. Depends on the business, because for some, that proof and that evidence that this company's good at what they do is really important. For others, we can just go straight into the product offer if it's something that's much more of an impulse purchase. So that's very much, you got to work that out for your specific business and what's appropriate. In general, the larger the ask, the more evidence you need to give to convince someone to purchase or become a lead. The smaller, the easier it can be. But yeah, as a standard starting framework, hook, story, offer works really well.
Okay, and then move to the next down the technical piece, right? So having the ad campaign, having the metrics, understanding, all of what dollars are making sense, not making sense. Like that's basically what you guys do. You guys are going to help with the creative, help with the delivery, and then help with the okay, boom, this one's working. We had a breakthrough. Like let's pour the fire on, or this is not working. Take that money out and let's reallocate it over here. Is that kind of like what you guys are providing? Is that like a fractional CMO? Is that walk us through the difference between like an ad agency versus like a fractional chief marketing officer kind of thing?
Yeah, it's an interesting. I'm not sure I've been asked in those terms before. It's an interesting question. Well, I think if you think about it through an ad agency lens, we get so many looks at different businesses, what works, what doesn't, across the board. So at any one time in say our Meta Business Manager account, we're going to have 450 ad accounts that we're managing. So I think one of the big differences you get with an agency is, well, with one that's operating at scale, is we just tried this thing here and it worked really well. We're going to roll that out to 25 other clients that we think this could work really well for. I mean, you could get that with like a fractional CMO, but I think it's far less likely.
Right.
So with an agency, if they're offering like a done for you service, what you should do if you're looking to hire one is entrust the process to them and let them test, scale, have creative input, optimize, and all those sorts of things.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and let the experts be the experts. Let them go for it, and report back 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Like, what's a let's focus on like wealth, real estate, entrepreneurs, right? Like, is there a general like time frame that, okay, this is working or this is not working? Any already feedback, or is it just different for every industry?
I think it is different for different industries, but in general, you can assess paid media on a much shorter time frame. If you're looking at it through like an investment lens, spending on Facebook ads or Google ads is much higher risk, but has the potential for much higher returns. It's much more volatile. You can have great returns one month and it not be so good the next month. And that's sort of the framework with which to look at it through. With that being said, real-time reporting with ad accounts doesn't do people many favors, because they will look at the results that afternoon or for yesterday, and that's not a good idea. But generally, you can assess results over a 2-week time frame quite accurately, and I think that's mostly reasonable. It doesn't mean that within 2 weeks things are going to work, but it's more of a direction of travel, and you can assess things.
What about buying keywords versus SEO and building up your presence? And like, I mean, I want to bring it back to my company because it's what I know most. Like, we have amazing client testimonials, right? But we've got like 2,500 YouTube subscribers, right? We have a podcast, right? We're just starting our paid ads here, and I think it's going to launch here in about 20 days or so. And then I think I'll call you guys in about 90, and you give me the assessment of how we're doing. And then if it's not going so great, maybe we'll jump over to you guys. But I like give me some thoughts there. And I've also I've hired an SEO group, and we are starting to rank higher and higher and higher. And I think they're doing an amazing job there. And so now we're. Like, how do you know when to go for the paid ads? How do you know when to hire an ad agency? Give me some wisdom on there.
What are your competitors doing? Particularly big. So the first question is, what are your competitors doing? So I take a look at what they're up to, particularly the big players that have been established a long time. That's likely to give you an indication. If none of them are using a certain marketing method, might be an indication that doesn't work. Might be that they just haven't figured it out, and that's a massive potential opportunity. But it might be that it doesn't work. If they're all doing a certain thing, the chances that will work for your business are very high. So I would think about that. So that's like the first thing. And then
you mean like, are they buying keywords? Are they? And you just do an audit. You do an audit and you go, okay, what are they doing on Meta? What are they doing on Google? What are they doing on YouTube, on any platform? And if they're doing it, there's a likelihood that, well, why don't you give it a shot and see if it works, right? And you're saying, okay.
Yeah, and then test. Whether or not you should hire an agency is normally going to be a budget question. Like how much you're spending. If you're spending, we've got $500, like, you're better off doing it yourself. Doesn't really make sense. If you're, okay, we're going to run a test and we've got $20K to put into this test, then probably makes sense to let an agency have at it.
That makes sense. Okay. And generally speaking, like a group like you, like what is the commitment? 20K and ad spend budget plus what per month? Like, give us a little bit of feel for that for you guys' service. Yeah,
on the lower end, we're going to start at about 5K per month in ad spend with a 3-month commitment. So including fees, you're probably looking at 20 as a starting budget. We just have 3-month commitments. Like I said, the time frame for assessing results should be relatively small.
Yeah.
But beauty of paid media, particularly with products that have broad appeal, is you can scale them to me. We've got campaigns running at more than $2 million a month right now.
I feel like we're like literally primed for it. I honestly wish I would have seen you like 3 weeks ago and had this podcast interview. I'm committed to these guys, and I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them, and I believe in them. And but I just don't think they have. You never know who you're going to meet. The most sought out after digital advertising agency in the UK, Mr. Ben Heath and Heath Media here, by the way, heathmedia.co.uk. So we've talked, so Facebook, Google, YouTube, like maybe we'll specialize again. Like if you were to say, hey, if you're in the X world, you should focus on this, right? Like if you're in the real estate world, is it Meta, right? Or is it YouTube, or is it Google Ads? Like, how do you determine, or does you just try them all? Just like, hey, we have 20K to spend. We're going to do Google ads, we're going to do Facebook ads, and then talk to us about YouTube ads, because I know you scaled, 350,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel, but you mentioned you mostly focus on Google and Meta ads, right? So walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So the mix is going to be business specific and industry specific. The first question to ask is there intent amongst your audience? So there are some products that you're trying to advertise and no one knows what it is or is looking for it. So let's say Google search, it's not going to be the place to be because no one's looking for it. There are other things that are complete opposite, where there are people looking for it all the time. It might be short-term time horizons. I mean, imagine like an emergency plumber, for example. Lots of people are going to be searching for that, and you want to find them when they're searching because that's exactly when they need you. So that's the first question to ask. From there, what we'll normally recommend is not one or the other. It's going to be both, but we'll establish which performs best and then the mix. So we might have clients that are 80% Meta, 20% Google, and Google is more of a remarketing, we're sending all these people to the website through Meta ads. Let's put a bit of budget on Google and reach these people elsewhere to try and help get the extra conversions. So that might be something that we're looking to do. As an agency, we run paid ads on those two advertising ecosphere, like the two massive Goliaths of online advertising, Meta incorporating Facebook and Instagram and soon to be Threads, and then Google, obviously all the Google placements, and then YouTube as well, right? My YouTube channel, I've grown organically. I haven't run any ads to grow that, but that is educational content primarily around Meta ads.
When do you recommend YouTube ads at all? I mean, after you've exhausted the Google and the Meta, and then
not necessarily. No, you could start with YouTube ads as your primary way of attacking things. YouTube ads in general tend to be more expensive. So if you think of YouTube advertising, I put that in the same category for the most part as Meta advertising, in that it's interruption advertising. So from what you're looking to do, you're looking to take people off their original task and get them to take a specific action. Assuming these are like in video ads, which most of the time it's going to be, as opposed to you can have image ads around on YouTube. YouTube's normally going to be more expensive, but potentially have higher quality. So I think it depends on what you're selling. If that suits your business more, then you can absolutely start with YouTube ads as opposed to Meta.
Mine's awareness, right? Like, Ben, I'm like if people are just aware, and because a lot of times these entrepreneurs we meet, they got 30 days to close their business and it's worth millions of dollars. And have they met us? We need to set it up before they're going to have an extra 20, 30, 40, 50% more because they're going to defer their capital gains taxes. And they're like, where is this? And and their M&A advisors are there and their attorneys and their CPAs, but it's like, well, had you been aware of it, a year ago, we have plenty of time. The only time we really ever lose deals is we run out of time, honestly. Yeah. And then when it closes, it's over and they have to pay the tax. We literally lost a $10 million, $14 million deal last week because of that. And we're like, oh. Wow. So to me, it's like it's awareness. I'm like, all right, if I can target where I know these entrepreneurs are going to be on, they're going to be on let's say the Joe Rogan show. They're going to be on Ben Heath's YouTube channel. They're going to be on all these places. And I can have a little 15, 30-second interruption. I'd be like, hey, before you do anything, and you have huge capital gains tax on your business, you've got to click on the link below. But if you don't worry about it. I'll see you in another 6 months, right? It only matters when it does matter when they're going to close. In the meantime, they're just building their business. But if they don't have the awareness of it, would that mean I would be a good source for YouTube?
Yeah, 100%. But the same would apply to Meta as well. But definitely YouTube. And with a business like yours, the return on ad spend that you're going to generate, you will not realize the full extent of that for a long time. You could still have short-term profitability on that, but there are guaranteed to be people that, as long as you keep going, contact you 5 years after they saw an ad, because now they're ready. They're in that stage of life, right, where they need you.
That's more. And
there are lots of businesses like that.
Do you send them to a funnel? Do you send them to a subscribe to your blog? What is the next step? Okay, so they clicked on the ad, they're interested, they may or may not be ready yet. It's a warm-up sequence. Are you using Go High Level, HubSpot, ClickFunnels? What is kind of the next step?
It depends on the business.
Okay.
Honestly. So we have a lot of e-commerce clients. There's not much warming up that's going to be done for most of them. We're trying to get the sale quite quickly. So
what about my business? Back to me. Just make it about me this time, right? What about me?
Yeah, I would like to get a lot of those people on an email list. So some sort of lead magnet, I think, would be a good idea. You'd also want to be retargeting these people on multiple platforms, honestly, because the whole gig for you is going to be showing up in and around the right time and not having them forget you. So I would try and bring them into your ecosphere to some extent. So I think an email list is a great way to do that. But I think beyond that, it would be continuing to reach these people through ads, through any organic medium you have.
Yeah, this is the name of the game. Again, I wish I would have met you, 3 weeks ago. But again, I'm a believer. Hey, if you're listening to that, there, guys, Brad and Ted, I love you guys. And if you're as good as Ben, man, then he's going to probably hire you or bring you on or buy your company. But you got to step up because this is pretty amazing. Okay, what haven't I asked you so far, Ben, that I should ask you?
Mistakes beginners make. It's probably an obvious one.
Sure. Yeah.
I think mostly it's around mindset. People have been told that these ad platforms are like they owe you the results. As in, I've paid Meta, I've paid Google, I have to get leads, I have to get sales. And the better way to think of it is these platforms give you the opportunity to sell to their audience. That's a very different thing to guaranteeing results. And the reason why that's so important is because so many beginners start advertising, they don't get any results, and they think, didn't work, Facebook ads doesn't work, Google ads doesn't work, etc. When in reality, they just didn't have the skills. They didn't know enough to get results. It's a competitive landscape. You're advertising to real people, not NPCs. And the best performing ads will get the results. It's something that happens across technologies. It consolidates, right? Winner takes all scenarios. Absolutely happens with ads. So in most industries, there's going to be a few massive players that have much better results than everyone else. They're able to scale, and that is a skill set that's required to achieve that. Not the platform owes it to you.
Got it. What's the second mistake, or anyone that you can think of another mistake?
Not giving things long enough. I mean, it sounded like you're coming at it from an angle where you would, but like I said, lots of people are going to be assessing things almost immediately and going, "Oh, it doesn't work," turning it off. And I think along those lines, there's just a lot of shortcuts, a lot of an ad will either work or it won't. There's not a huge amount of benefit in having a 5 out of 10 ad. Oh, I'm not capable of producing a 10 out of 10 ad yet, or I don't have the time. Therefore, I'll just throw this one up there because it's good to have it up there. Like, that's just pretty wishy-washy. It's like, let's either do this well enough to the point where it can be profitable and self-liquefy and potentially scale, or there's not much point.
Okay. I love that. What about like, I mean, the CEO or the founder of the company, the face of the company, like that's me, right? But like, should I be making the ad and saying the thing versus like hiring I think I'd want to do it myself, right? I don't mind being on camera and all this stuff, like whatever, right? And if I need to do something fun and goofy and like make it not boring, like I'm fine, whatever. Like, but how do you ever like bring in, like I have a book, right? And I have a Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, the book, right? And so on my website, like, you know, it's me talking, and then down here is like me and Kevin talking, right? So like what amount of like, celebrity / influencer people, walk through that mindset there for me.
So you're comfortable being on camera, and that changes the equation a lot because a lot of people aren't, and in which case it's just not really an option for them. If you're comfortable being on camera, I think it's very powerful to build a personal brand and have that be part of what it is you're looking to do. There are downsides, and given your industry, I'm sure you're familiar, my business would be almost impossible to sell without some sort of very arduous earn-out where I've got to create content for years going forward because so much of it is wrapped up in my personal brand. So there are absolutely downsides to that. The upsides is that people connect with people a lot more than they connect with brands. It's particularly if you're selling in an industry that requires a lot of trust, like mine and like yours, then I think it's really valuable to have that connection between the people that are seeing your stuff and the people as part of the company. So if you were wanting to augment that with influencers, I would look at it that way. Like, so my recommendation would be you want to be in the ads, and it would be if you want to give them some extra punch, it wants to be you and in the ads as opposed to someone else. But that has downsides. I've spoken to many business owners that are like, no, we're not doing that. We're building a brand because we want to sell this thing in 5 years' time, in which case, don't go down the personal branding route. But then that depends on your long-term objectives. Oh,
such good wisdom, everybody. We're speaking with Mr. Ben Heath, and he is with heathmedia.co.uk, heathmedia.co.uk. This is too good. How much ad spend do you spend towards your personal brand versus your company? How do you know to do which, when, and where? So all our promotion is through my personal brand, personally, for my business. And I think if you're personal brand led, like that's basically fine in many scenarios. Okay.
We are an expertise-based service provider. If we were an e-commerce business, the split would be different. There'd be a lot more spent on other things.
Okay.
And then I think if you're trying to assess that for your business, you have to test and see what's more effective. So what is, if you run ads to a generic marketing agency that no one's ever heard of, that is a really tough sell because there's hundreds of thousands of them, if not millions of them, and trying to convince anyone that you're any good is really difficult. So for us, the weight of my personal brand is incredibly important. For other businesses, that's not the case, and you can be far more direct.
So back to me, so my company's Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and and then I have brettswartz.com, right? So ads wise, what would we drive ads to?
So your current clients, do they work with you because of you or because they've sort of contacted the company directly?
I mean, they see me on podcasts, YouTube channels, 80% of them, and they're like, me. So I would say probably me. Yeah. And they might search Capital Gains Tax Solutions, like in the Google, because capital gains tax. And then, so there's, but I don't really know. I haven't really tested it, but I would just say, because we don't really do running ads, right? Yet. So I guess we would test it, right, Ben, and figure that out.
100%. But then that's the data point that you'd be looking at. You'd be like, okay, are they coming through for me? Or are they coming through for the brand name? And then,
and then when you figure that out, then you're running ads to brettswartz.com versus capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Is that what that means?
Okay. So there's running ads to and there's running ads from, and those are two different things. Okay. So in my scenario, we're running ads from my Facebook page, from my Instagram account that are branded as me, my personal brand. Okay. They are run to my company website. So that's where they're going to book a call, convert, then they're going to have a chat with my guys, et cetera, but they're run from me. So I think there's a difference there. They could be run to basically anywhere you want. I don't think that's such a big deal, but it's what you're positioned as in where they're seeing you in the first place.
Fascinating. See the world. Yeah. You just don't know what you don't know. Which, again, everybody, Ben Heath, and you can find more by going to heathmedia.co.uk. Okay, let's talk a little bit about capital gains tax, and then we'll do lightning round. Okay, you ready?
Sure.
All right. So UK is probably different. I mean, I know you guys have big taxes over there too.
Oh yeah.
But you have these, you drive these ads for, you move from 1 million revenue to 15 million revenue, and they got this massive $50 million exit. They're all excited, Ben, right? And they're like, man, there's magic capital gains tax, but I don't want to do it. I'm going to sell. So have you faced that before? And I don't even know if UK has tax deferral strategies, but my question is what's the biggest frustration when it comes to massive capital gains taxes after you built this business for so many years that you faced when I don't know if you even sold your business yet, or have had clients sell it, right? Anything come to mind there?
I haven't sold a business. Like I said, the only business of significance I've built is my marketing agency, and that is wrapped up in my personal brand. It'd be very difficult to do so. We have far less capital gains type deferral stuff than you do over there, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But we have definitely had clients that have been through that. It's not normally great for us because normally when they sell their business, we lose the client because they're going to be bought by some big company that has internal in-house teams and things like that. From the people I know that have been through that, they have just paid the capital gains, hated it, and then swiftly move to Dubai or some other location where they won't get hit for round two. It's typically what they do.
Yeah, or Puerto Rico is a big one for the U.S.
Yeah.
If you are facing that and you're considering selling something, if you're in the U.S., we can help you. If you live in the U.K. and you own a U.S. business, we can still help you. So it's just basically if you're subject to U.S. capital gains tax, which is actually very common, we can help you. And so you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about that. Or maybe you should just go to my personal brand, brettswartz.com. Whatever, and you tell me which one is more attractive to you. So I can do a case study on that. But seriously, businesses, Bitcoin, stock, real estate, and you want a flexible entrepreneurial way to invest and go back into a new business, new venture, all tax deferred, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com or pick up the book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, right there on Amazon. All right, let's move to the lightning round. You ready?
Sure.
All right, knowing what you know now, Ben, if you go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
Be more focused on personal brand building almost to the exclusion of anything else.
Mm. One practical step on what that looks like today, like, just give us you do what to do that?
You produce the most useful or entertaining content, depending on your specific niche. You go really specific and you produce the best stuff in that specific world.
Okay. The most useful and entertaining within
or
your
entertaining. Could be either. My stuff's not entertaining. It's all practical. But other businesses need to go down the entertaining route.
You have to figure out what's your strength and what's connecting, right? And then just hit that stuff. Are you more useful or more entertaining?
Than the other guy.
And just play that. Okay.
Yeah. And that can apply to ads or that can apply to organic content.
I don't know if you've studied Dan Martell. You know Dan Martell?
Yeah.
So he's my fitness coach, and so his thought. I'm curious what you think on this real fast. Let's we'll slow down the lightning round because this is really good. Okay. So he says 3 things. He goes exactly right. Personal brand for sure, and then your business is down here. And he says the mistake is most people just keep talking about their businesses the whole time. He's like, pick 3 themes. His themes are mindset, fitness, and business. So the big themes. So his personal brand, he wants to be known for those 3 things. And as you get to know and follow him, and he's entertaining, he's practical. I mean, he's got it all. He's amazing. And so he has this massive, YouTube following, massive Instagram following. And then his thing is direct message. And he literally, he keeps saying he does it himself. I don't know if it's ManyChat for sure. I try to test him out a little bit, but let's assume he's doing it himself. Okay. He's doing it himself. And he's just closing these, folks into their fitness program. That's how I got closed in the fitness program. I'm going to join his business program. Yeah. But the point is, he says, don't think of it like a marketing mindset. He goes, you need to start a media company. He's like, you got to go so much, and you got to pick 3 things you're really passionate about, and then become the most well-known, entertaining, useful in those 3 things, kind of what you're saying, right? And then people come there, and then as they get to know, and trust you, and then eventually, and then you will drop things about it. At the end of the talk, you'll say, hey, this is my book, right? Or if you want to learn more about that, you check out my fitness thing, and he'll tell his transformational story of his fitness journey and business story. And so is that what you're saying, or what is Dan missing, or are we spot on what he's saying there?
Spot on. That's exactly what I would do more of. I have done it well, and it would not be, I wouldn't change strategy on that. It would be do that earlier and do it more aggressively. If you have one thing that is strong enough, it'll compensate for a ton of weaknesses. So operationally as a business owner, I'm not as strong as I am in other areas, but I got to a level where I worked out, you know what, if I have enough lead flow, I'm going to be able to hire or partner with people that can nail the operations. And that's exactly what I got. So all my time is spent creating content and building my personal brand. I'm the face of the business. I'm the lead gen, and I have a business partner who's fantastic on operations. So yeah.
Okay. So if Dan says mindset, business, and fitness, what would you say your top 3 on for your personal brand?
Well, obviously Meta Ads. Well, I have 2 YouTube channels, one on Meta Ads, one on Google Ads. So that's going to be 2 of them. I think the third part that people really resonate with in my content is I broaden it out to wider marketing and business considerations. A lot of marketers get lost in the data, and you're like, yeah, but we need to think about this. We need to take a step back here and think about this as a whole. So it'd probably be marketing strategy would be the third one. Okay,
so marketing strategy. I'm sorry, ads. And then
I'd say one's Facebook ads and the other one's Google ads. I think
okay.
Enough to be specific enough.
So yeah, I'm gonna push back just a little bit to see what you think. See, so Dan would say business is the big, and then buy back your time is the book, and the service is the business is down here. So he's not saying the book, and he's actually saying business. And so I hear marketing is kind of a big one. And then it goes, and then ads is what you provide, right? And then he would say, find 2 others, fitness and mindset, right? So again, and then go into the business models below that. So wouldn't marketing be for sure you, right? And then you have meta and ads would actually be the things that people go to for the business. What would be the 2 others? I'm just curious, what does your mind go on that? If you had to pick 2 others,
I wouldn't have any for my personal brand.
Okay,
I totally get that works for Dan, and he doesn't push much in his content directly. My stuff is much more specific to the audience I'm trying to reach, and it is much more targeted and tailored, and I push my stuff, my services, mentorship program, etc. heavily. pluses and minuses to that. I imagine per viewer, I make a lot more money than he does, but he has much larger audiences than I do. So those are the two pluses and minuses, right? And if I want to grow significantly, I have to start going broader and accept that per viewer, I might make a little bit less, but that there's much larger growth. I mean, I've got just shy of 1 million followers across social channels. They're nearly all Meta advertisers. There's something like 5 to 7 million Meta advertisers in the world. There's not that many more I can get. I can't 10x, so I have to go broader with that. But I don't have those 3 pillars yet. Maybe I will in a few years' time.
Yeah, actually, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, because I'm literally wrestling between the two, because it's like personal brand versus pushing what I do, and like, but what I do is my personal brand, right? So that's definitely a part of it. And then, but do I broaden out a little bit? Like, I don't know. And so I wrestle with that when he said that. I'm like, I mean, I could talk about jujitsu and basketball and fitness, but are people going to follow me for that? Maybe not. I played basketball in college, right? But like I'm like, and I can talk about my faith, right? I can go there. I can go personal development, leadership, right? And so I'm trying to think that through, but I'm not clear on it. So that's why I was asking you. I don't really have a hard stance on it, but
in my opinion, I think it's better to be more specific than too broad, particularly whilst you're building a personal brand.
Right.
I've had this conversation with a lot of people that are talking about that are thinking through these lens, and they say, oh, you need to include this. And I'm like, I don't have enough clout where anyone cares about my exercise regime or the hobbies that I'm into or anything like that. If I had 10 times the following, maybe. If I had 100 times, absolutely. So I think you almost need permission to start sharing those other things, and you need to be of a certain size. That's how I approach it anyway.
No, I think there's tons of wisdom there. The jury's still out. I'll report back to you guys what we're going, or if you start seeing me, talking about other subsidized capital gains tax solutions. That's also why I have the podcast too, because it helps me to broaden the connections and all this stuff. All right, so back to the lightning round. Number one way you're using ChatGPT.
Script writing, ad copy, loads. Those would probably be the most common. Would be script writing and ad copy.
Sweet. What are you most curious about right now?
What am I most curious about? It's probably along that theme of just how much can we get AI to do? And to what extent is that going to completely change my industry? I think that there's a lot of fear amongst marketing agencies they're going to be replaced by AI. I absolutely don't think that's going to be the case, because when you're advertising on any of these platforms, it's a competitive landscape. So you need to beat your competition to get the best results possible. You need to be better than them. Your consumers are seeing your ads alongside their ads. Who are they going to pick, right? The better one, the better offer, et cetera, et cetera. So there's always going to be a room for competitive edge, and I'm fascinated, like, where's that line? Because 5 years ago, it used to be the targeting and the settings within your ad account. And now that's kind of all been fixed and that's set. So now we focus more on the offer and the ad creative. That's where you can win. How much that's going to be taken by AI, we don't know yet, but we'll see.
Awesome. Next question. Number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
$100 million offers, Alex Hormozy. It's particularly pertinent to my to what I do. But yes, that'd be what I've recommended most.
Cool. Love it. Number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
It's a classic. It's not that exciting, but it would be hire slow, fire fast, right?
It's good.
I think that's, I've always got that going on in my head when I'm thinking about new team members.
I've been thinking about that for my clients. I call it elves versus haves.
Yeah.
You want to work with elves. They're easygoing, they're loving, and they're fun. By the way, you make sure you're an elf too, right? Other side of that, you don't want to work with haves, okay? Or even have clients that are haves. They're hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. Okay. A little tip there for hiring and or firing clients before they're even clients. Cool. All right. By the way, I love all my clients. You guys are all elves. Don't, if you're hearing this, you're great. Otherwise, you're already fired, and you probably don't listen to this anyway. So, All right. Very last question, Ben. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time, your expertise, and having some fun today. And it's really the heart of the show, which is, practicing a mindset of stewardship over ownership. So what's the best way that you're doing that? And maybe what's something that you're really passionate about giving back to?
Well, I think we very much take that approach with the companies we work with. We know that for the vast majority of them, we're not going to work with them forever. A lot of them will come on for specific promotions. But what we do might stay with them forever, for years, decades. The brand perception we create, the customers that are initially acquired that go on to become lifelong customers. So that is absolutely something I think of. Like, we are stewards of our clients' brands when we are working for them. And we have a sort of duty to leave that in a better place once we finish working with them than when we started working with them. So that's the obvious way.
Such a great way to leave on, Ben. Thank you so much, Ben, for being on the show and sharing your expertise. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, could you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, sure. Awesome. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a really good chat. Yeah. If they're interested in our services or anything like that, then it's heathmedia.co.uk is our website. You can find stuff there, book a free call with us, find out how and if we might be able to help. And if anyone wants to learn more about Meta ads, Google ads, any of that, just search my name, Ben Heath, and YouTube and other socials. I'll pop up and you can see my content there.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channels. So if you're listening there, thank you so much. Hey, we're on this journey with you to scale from millions to billions, so we can give more or all of it away to help MVPs. And we trust that this episode delivered for you. And if it did, would you please share it with someone it can bless today and take action today? If you don't have a paid ads team or agency, or if your agency is not performing, why don't you go to Mr. Ben Heath's website, heathmedia.co.uk, to get started. And if you have a massive exit with massive capital gains taxes, I'm talking millions, at least $1 million or more, you need to check out not only the book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, but if you're live, you need to go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We need to set this up before close of escrow to help you to defer 20, 30, 40, 50% more of the proceeds, keep them working for you, compound your interest and your impact. Thank you so much for watching and listening, everybody. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Bye now.